Hi everyone, my name is Olga, and today we are going to discuss identity on the blockchain and how you can own your online self. Now, let's begin this topic with a story from a bar. A couple of months ago, I was in a bar and I was ID'd, and that really doesn't happen that often. So the guy who wanted to see my ID, he was looking kind of sketchy. And as I was giving him my ID, I thought, man, I was thinking about all the information my ID has: my name, my date of birth, my personal ID, and also my address where I live. Now I thought, wow, this absolute stranger now knows where I live and sleep. And that got me to think about all the places where we give out our personal data, and not just offline in real world, but also online as well. And now, speaking of online, if you can take a look at this slide and tell me how many of these logos you guys recognize and how many of these applications you use. Now I'm guessing quite a lot, right? And with majority of them, you have an account, right? And from your perspective, that account belongs to you, but it actually doesn't. Those accounts, they belong to service providers of these applications. Now, if you are to, for any reason, wake up tomorrow and lose access to your account, this is how your tomorrow would look like. Now, it looks quite dark and scary. And if you think about all the contacts you would lose to your friends, to your family, all the content that you have put out there, and now you have no longer access to, it doesn't feel right. Now, let's talk about challenges we face today because of a current setup that we have online. Now, multiple accounts and passwords. We have already mentioned how you have multiple accounts, they don't belong to you. And it is a recent study that a regular person today has between 150 and 170 passwords for various accounts. Now that's a lot, right? And if you think about all those passwords and accounts, they belong to your service providers. And those service providers, behind them are tech giants. Now, think of these tech giants as your online identity gatekeepers. Now, they are doing the best work they possibly can to protect your online data. But even that they do so, more and more in the recent years, we hear about data breaches and identity thefts. And if you are to think about someone stealing your LinkedIn password, that person or hacker, whoever, they are going to try that LinkedIn password for your other services as well, right? And I guess a lot of us are guilty for reusing the passwords that we have online. Now, the last point I wanted to discuss here is sharing too much personal data. If you think about me in a bar, I shared my whole ID with a guy who only wanted to know if I was underage or not, so he can give me a drink or not. Now, is there a better alternative to this? Yes, there is. And today we are going to discuss a better alternative, specifically the one that blockchain can offer us. But before we do that, let's first define what we are not going to discuss today. What we are not going to discuss today are concrete examples and solutions that already exist and that we would be able to use from tomorrow onwards. Now, these concrete solutions, I have listed them here, a couple of them, just in case after this presentation you wanted to go and start using something. This would be your starting point. If I was to suggest something to you, I would suggest this. But today we are going to focus more about the ideas of our identity and how blockchain can improve that. Now let's start that discussion with something called self-sovereign identity, SSI. Now, that's a bit of a buzzword, and I'm going to explain it to you by 3 major things that it will allow you. Now, first point is you own and control your identity. Now, we have already discussed that the accounts that you have online are not yours. Now, think about identity that you actually own and you keep with yourself. If you were to think about your online world versus real world, in real world, this is your scenario. You have a wallet. In that wallet, you have your ID. You show your ID on demand and put it back in your wallet and take it with you. Now, that can happen also online. Next one is selective sharing of credentials. I already told you how I have shared my full ID with a guy who only wanted to know if I was underage or not. Blockchain solutions can offer you to share only what you need to, not more. And the last point is no central authority needed. Now, if you think about the accounts you have online and your access to these accounts, you have services behind any of these accounts that can prevent you from accessing that account. For example, if Instagram doesn't allow you to access your account, there is nothing you can do about that. In a blockchain and decentralized solutions, there are no central authorities between you and what you want to access. There is only you with your digital ID that we will explain later, and what you want to access. No middleman. Now, before we dive into concrete examples and solutions that blockchain can offer us, let's first define our online identity in 3 big pillars. Now, think of these 3 pillars as 3 major things you want to protect about your online self. Now, first pillar is access. When you think about this one, you should think about 2 things. First one is you want to make sure that no one is impersonating you online. And the second one is you want to make sure that you are able to prove who you are in order to access some service. Now, this is your first pillar. Now, second pillar is content. Now, you have proven who you are. You have entered some service. Now, your identity doesn't stop there. Your identity is also every image that you post, every video that you create, every music song that you write, every story that you write, every post, every like, every comment, every follow, every connection. All of that is also part of your digital identity and your ID. Now, third pillar is community. We are at our core social beings, and we have a need to connect with others. Now, internet as we know it today, and the way it has developed through the years, it did so to allow us to be social beings online as we are offline. The network we built, the communities, all of that is as important to us online as it is offline. Now that we have defined these 3 pillars, let's go through each of them and see what are some solutions on the blockchain that we can use to improve these 3. First one, access. Now, access is a lot of things. And now I have listed here some of them that I wanted to discuss with you today. And I'm going to give you a second to read through them. And then we are going to go one by one, explain what it does and how it can help you. So let's go. Your digital ID. Now, I have mentioned how accounts you have online, they don't belong to you. And now, when you think about your offline world, we have mentioned you have your wallet, in it you have your ID, show it on demand, put it back in your wallet. Think about your digital ID as an online version of your physical ID. Now, you have your digital ID you keep it in your digital wallet app with you, show it on demand, put it back in your digital wallet app, and take it with you. Now, think of your digital ID as a key. Now, someone would tell you, hey, if you are who you say you are, you would have a key to unlock this door, and this door being a service. You would come up to a door, use your key to unlock the door. By unlocking the door, you would be able to access some service. You're putting key back in your pocket and continue with your life. Usually, we don't only need to prove who we are, we want to prove something about ourselves. That's where something called verifiable credentials come into play. Now, let's explain that on an example. And let's imagine you want to prove that you have graduated from a specific university. Now, what you will do, you would go to your trusted authority, in this case, that's your university. You would ask them to issue you a verifiable credential, which is basically your digital diploma. They will cryptographically sign it, and you would put it in your digital wallet app the same way you do your digital ID, and you would show it on demand and put it back in your wallet. Now, there are 3 important things that verifiable credential contains that I would like you to remember. So, your verifiable credential, it has an information about who signed it, and that's your university. It has an information about what was signed, and therefore it is very hard to tamper with that verifiable credential. And lastly, it has information who it was signed for, so it's tied to you. I have mentioned briefly that it's very hard to tamper. Some would even say that it's tamper-proof, and I would tell you more about that later. It is very easily verifiable because someone who would be verifying it would use the same algorithm, math, encryption, decryption that was used when a verifiable credential was created. So it is very handy to have verifiable credential the same way you have your digital ID. So your digital ID can help you prove who you are, and your verifiable credential can prove something about you. Now, if you think about the way you share your digital ID and your verifiable credential, it's not ideal that you have to show it to someone and put it back in your wallet. It would be much better if you could, for example, just show the proof of that. Now, that's where something called zero-knowledge proofs come into a picture. Think of zero-knowledge proofs as a yes or no answers to questions about your identity. Now, the guy in a bar, he only wanted to know if I was underage or not. Yes or no. When someone wants to see if you have graduated, they don't usually want to read your whole diploma for days. They want to know if you have graduated or not. Yes or no. So zero-knowledge proofs are your yes or no answers to questions. Now, next one is selective disclosure. What is amazing about blockchain is that your digital ID, it doesn't have to be your ID where you can have your name, your date of birth, your address, your age. Also with verifiable credentials and zero-knowledge proofs. Using blockchain, you can specifically say what you want, for example, your proof to contain. Your proof can, for example, just say, she is over 18, or yes, she lives in Serbia, or yes, she has graduated. So information that you share can be as little as possible as you want it to be, and you are able to share only what's necessary. Now, the last one is trusting math and ledger. Now, let's separate these two. What does trusting math means? That means that I'm not trusting a guy in a bar. He is not trusting me the way I look. He is not trusting the way application on my phone looks. We are not trusting some hype with application, some big logo, some marketing behind something. No, we are trusting math, which means encryption, cryptography, algorithms. So more logical things, less emotional things. Now, the second part is trust ledger. Now, first, let's explain what a ledger is. Let's explain it this way. Now, think of a database, but not only one database, a lot of them. And all of these databases, they have copies of each other's data. Now, those databases are called the nodes. Now, those databases or the nodes, they are not separate. They are connected in a network. And that network is called the ledger. Now, think about how information goes into the network. When, for example, it was proven that I am over 18, information goes to a node, and from that node, it goes to all other nodes. So now if someone was to tamper with that information and to, let's say, convince one node or one database that I'm not over 18, that person would not only need to convince that one node, but all of them at the same time. Now, I'm not saying that's impossible to do, but it is really, really hard. Now, because it is really, really hard, we know how easy it is to trust it. And this was your first pillar. Now, your second pillar is content. When you think about your content currently, how it looks, it is stored and controlled by centralized platforms. Let's explain it. Let's take an example of you posting a picture of Instagram. How the flow goes. So you're taking a picture, you're adding some description, you're putting some filters, and you're posting it online. Once you post it, what Instagram does? They tag it, they analyze it, they maybe do some behavioral profile on it, and then they store it in their database. And from that point onwards, even though you are the one who created that image, access to that content and what happens to it, it does no longer depend on you. What is amazing about Instagram? It is free. And if you think about other services as well, for example, Facebook, it's free and it always will be. Tell me, how is that possible in a world where we know how expensive it is, for example, to have some cloud storage? We know how expensive AWS is. Those service providers, let's say Instagram, Facebook, they are offering us free service in exchange for data analytics. And that means that they are able to do what they want under their terms and conditions that you have agreed upon. They are able to do with your content whatever they want. That means that they are offering you targeted marketing based on your post. They are maybe, I'm pretty certain on this by now, even anonymously selling your data to third-party services. And now, what a decentralized solution can offer you. And now, what a decentralized storage can allow you. It can allow you to have content owned by you. So let's take a same example, you posting a picture online. But as you're posting it, you're signing it with your digital ID that we have explained previously. And from that point onwards, your content is forever tied to you. You control who can access it, what they do with it, and you can at any time revoke access to it. Now, what's another great benefit of decentralized solution? That's no single point of failure. Now, you might think, well, with Instagram, they definitely have backups of my data. Yes, of course they do. They absolutely have backups of your data. But your single point of failure is your access to your Instagram account. If you are not able to access that Instagram account, it doesn't matter how many copies of your content Instagram has, you cannot access it. In a decentralized solution, because there is no such thing as Instagram, no central authority, as long as you have your digital ID and as long as the network is alive, you are able to access your content. And the last point is censorship. Now, all the platforms that we use today, they have something put in place called community guidelines. Now, these community guidelines are set in place to protect us, to make us feel safe on the platform, right? But it doesn't mean that 100% of us agrees with 100% of the rules all the time. Now, decentralized solutions can offer you a censorship-free content. Take a second and think about everything we crazy humans would post and see online without censorship in place. And you can think for yourself if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And the last pillar is community. Think about all the things you do online to interact with your friends and family. You post, you like, you watch, you add some friends. All of that is currently being tracked and monetized. Not only what you post, what you like is tracked. Even the smallest things. So when you scroll, how your eyes are moving while you're scrolling, all of that is tracked. Now, what can a decentralized alternative offer you? Now, think about same set of capabilities, so you can do everything exactly the same way you do it now, but no one is watching what you do. No one is looking over your shoulder and following your every move. Now, let's discuss also this point here, portable social graph. Now, let's first say, what is a social graph? So, social graph is your network, your community that you have built online. And now, if you think about your communities are tied to certain platforms, right? And again, you lose access to the platform and to your account, you lose access to your community. Now think about how frustrating it would be if every time you are not able to log into an account and you lose access to it, you have to rebuild your whole network. Ugh, no. Now, a decentralized solution can offer you social graph that is tied to you, and wherever you go, it goes with you. And the last one here is trust model shift. Now, if you think about who you trust online now, you trust some platforms that a lot of people are using. You trust their history of protection of your data, of your profile, right? Even in real world, you trust your government, you trust some big institutions, right? If we are to move to blockchain solutions, your trust would lie in completely different domain. So you are no longer trusting logos and marketing and what people are using and the hype. You are trusting more logical things. You are trusting algorithms, encryption, network, the technology behind it. And now this was our third pillar. I have mentioned how amazing these things are, right? And if they are so amazing and can offer us so much, why aren't we there yet? Why everyone is not using blockchain solutions? Let's for a second take a step back and play devil's advocate and see what are some of the trade-offs that we would be accepting if we are to migrate. Here I have listed some of the things I think are important to discuss, and I'm going to give you a second to read through them, and then we can go one by one and explain what it means and what it can allow you. Now, first one is usability and managing your own identity. What I have mentioned is how it's bad that we don't own our accounts, right? But what I didn't mention is how large is the work and responsibility that we don't have to think about because we don't own our accounts. Now, if you think about your accessibility to your account, it is a big work that you can access it at all times. Now, it's also amazing that you have algorithms in place where if you forget your password, you can just click a button, hey, I forgot my password, and you will get your access back. So if you were to be managing your own identity, you would be the one responsible to keep access to it and to not lose it. And there is no magical, hey, I forgot my password solution on a blockchain. Now, there are some ideas. For example, if you lost access to your account, your friends or group of your trusted connections can vouch for you to get back in. But user experience is definitely not at the level of current solutions. Now, next one is convenience versus control. Now, no one is forcing us to use internet as we are using it today, right? We are doing so because it's very convenient and it's developing in a way to be more and more convenient to us. But in exchange for that, we have let go a lot of control over our personal online identity. Now, we would need to think about whether we are ready to give up some of that convenience in order to regain the control that we have let go. Next one is trust and issuers. We have already mentioned that now we know in this online world, and also an offline one, a real one, we know who we trust. But who do we trust on a blockchain? Okay, we trust some contracts and algorithms and encryptions, but is there a white list of contracts and algorithms and network that we trust there? If we are to globally migrate to have our identity managed on a blockchain, we would need to know how to trust and who are we trusting and which contracts, which networks. Now, next one is privacy versus transparency on the blockchain. Transparency is a big thing on blockchain. If you know a chain where something happened, you can go to a specific block and see everything that happened in that block, which is absolutely amazing until that block has something private about you. Now, luckily, we have algorithms and encryptions and mechanisms to keep our private data not visible to everyone, but only to those who we want them to see our data. But we would need to make sure that those mechanisms are set in place before we put our personal data on there. Next one is adoption and network effect. All of your friends are on current social media, right? Why would you go anywhere else? If you're going to be the only one in a bar showing your digital ID, the bartender is just going to say, hey man, just give me a normal one. If you're going to be the only one showing your verifiable credential instead of your diploma, your employee is just going to say, hey, just send me an email with a copy of your diploma. I don't need this verifiable credential. So that means that we would need to make a major push towards us being able to use these solutions globally. And that push can be done by either us as a society or government and big institutions, which is less likely. Now, the last point is regulation and governance. Now, if you lose your ID, for example, or your driver's license, you go to your government, say, hey guys, I lost my ID, I lost my driver's license. Can I get a new one? They're like, of course, they give you a new one. If you lose access to your online account, we have already mentioned, you just click I forgot my password. Also, have you ever received an email from Google saying your password was compromised, please change it? That means that someone is actively tracking if your data is safe and it was stolen. And you can bet that once your data is stolen, they would improve their system and make your data more secure for the next time. Now, who is going to do that on a blockchain? And now we are really coming to an end. We have discussed really a lot today. We have mentioned where we are today, what blockchain can offer us as a potential future, what are some of the trade-offs that we would need to accept if we are to migrate, and it would be really, really silly of me to, with all this information, ask, so what you're going to do now? Because that question is something that you should be thinking in years and decades to come. It's a major shift. But if I can ask you to start thinking about one thing from tomorrow onwards, that would be how much of your personal data are you willing to trade for convenience? Thank you.